Hello everyone. Today I want to talk more about some packages and methods or attributes you can use. So let's talk about math package. I'm importing math, and then for example I can find the pi value using dot pi. This is one of the methods of math package. And another one, for example, I can write down math dot sine, for example 0.5 multiply, let's say math dot pi, and here's the result. So I used sine, which is one of the method in math function, and I'm using another method of math. So what else I can do? I can say from math import pi or sine, right? In this way, when I want to use sine or pi, I don't even have to write down math dot pi or math dot sine. So this will directly give me the result of pi and sine. So with comma I separated two methods. I can add another method, for example, so I can have just one of them like this, or I can have multiple. And here cosine. Actually here's sine of, for example, 0.5, and then cosine of 0.5. Okay, so this is what you can see in math function, or actually something else that I remember that was interesting. So from math you can import star, which is the multiplication, right? So you can import something like multiplication, even you have access to multiplication easily without even importing that from math function. Okay, so one more thing that also import function can does. So import math as something as empty, for example, will help us to use math function with a brief kind of name. And this is always useful whenever we have a huge kind of name for a package. We will make a brief name, a smaller name, and use that. So you can say anything, import them as blah, something like that, and then later you can use this as a brief name for that package, like this way. Okay, so what else? The numpy package. So what numpy package does, it mostly helps you with creating arrays. So let's import numpy as np. So this is the kind of most common brief name for numpy. And then I'm going to create a new variable and name it xnew, and I'm going to use np because now I have a brief name for that, arrange, and then beginning with 0 to 5.5, 0.5. So let's see what this does. This will create numbers from 0 to 5.5, creates values from 0 to 5.5, and then remember 5.5 is excluded. Do you remember range function? So range function couldn't generate floating number, but now this one, arrange in NumPy package, can generate floating number, and the distance is distance between values will be 0.5. Okay, so now I'm going to print x new. See what we have? We have error. So what did I do? Arrange. Oh, I have double R. Okay, so now it works. Okay, you see that we generated numbers, floating number. Create floating values. Let me add here, range function cannot generate floating numbers. So for this reason, we use arrange from NumPy package. Okay, so what else I can do with this? I can find the summation of this x new, for example. Let's see. So it will add all the numbers we have in this array. Okay, so I'm going to create arrays in NumPy. How we do that? Let's create a variable called that array. I'm using NumPy array function, and I'm going to create a bracket. Square bracket is used for creating array. 1, 2, 3. These are the value I'm going to have in my first row of the array, and then with 1 comma I'm going to create another row of the array, and then I can create another row by using another comma and another set of 3 elements, for example. I could have 2 elements, or just one. So let's see what this one will create. So you will see 1 row, another row, right? Let's remove one of the elements from each of them. We will have a square matrix like 2 by 2, right? 2 column, 2 row. This is 1 row, another row, first column, another column. Okay, so, and let's see what else we can do. So now what I want to show you, with help of indexing, I am going to extract the first row of this array I created. Array 0. This gives us the first row, means 1, 2, 3, right? And then let's print this. You will see 1, 2, 3, and then this one gives us the second row of this array. Okay, so this is the array we can create in NumPy. Let's see what is this array's characteristic. So do you remember type? We can use type to see what kind of object is this. So this is a n-dimensional array, nd array, and then let me print this, and then I'm going to print arrays shape. What shape gives us? Because this is an n-dimensional array, shape tells me what is row and columns. How many rows and columns do we have? And then let's see, it says 2 rows. The first argument is row, the second is the column. So we have 2 rows and 3 columns. So this is a matrix of 2 rows and 3 columns. Okay, so now let's do some math. Let's from math, let's import sqrt, which is a square root, and then let's say a is 1, b is negative 7.8, c is 4, for example. And then I'm going to calculate d, which is b power 2 minus 4 times a c. I hope you remember what this is. So, do you remember quadratic functions? So when we had ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, when we wanted to find the root of this quadratic function, or when we wanted to find the value for x, what we would do, we would say x is equal to b, negative b, plus or minus a square root of b power 2 minus 4ac, and then we call this discriminant, right? And then the whole thing must be divided by 2a. So this part is the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, right? And what we do, let me print d. So d is a positive number. So do you remember d being positive or negative number would affect on the values of x. So now it's a positive number. We will have a real value because this positive number under square root will become a positive real value, right? So now 1 of x will be negative b plus sqrt of discriminant d, the whole thing divided by 2 multiply a, right? And then we have x2, which is negative b minus a square root of d divided by 2. So I'm going to print x1 and x2. So if we have a quadratic function, let me show in this example the quadratic function will be 1 x power 2 because a is 1, and then b is negative 7.8, right? And then c is 4. So we got a, we got b, we got c, created d using the formula of discriminant, and then we use the square root of d, and then negative b plus and minus square root of d divided by 2a gives us the root of this quadratic function. Okay, so we see that with import function, with math, with importing functions or methods from different libraries or functions, we are able to solve like mathematical or arithmetic questions. Okay, so what else? We can actually solve some other examples. Okay, so there's a question in your PowerPoint chapter 2, class assignment 5, page 55. Page 55. Class assignment 5, page 55. Okay, so what we have in this class assignment, in this question, says your task is to design a program that models inflating a spherical balloon. First, the balloon is inflated to have a certain diameter, which is provided as an input. Then inflate the balloon so that the diameter grows by an inch, just 1 inch, and display the amount the volume has grown. So we should show the amount of volume, increase in volume. Then it says repeat that step, grow the diameter by another inch, and show the growth of the volume. And there's a hint. It says the volume of sphere is 4/3 pi r power 3. So let me write down the formula for you. Formula is 4/3 multiplies to pi multiplies to r power 2 power 3, and this is the volume. Volume is equal to this. Okay, so the diameter is equal to 2 multiply r good, and then r is equal to radius, and if we want to write it down using diameter, if I call diameter d, this will be d/2, right? So let me write this down in this way. Okay, so first we want the difference between volume 1 when diameter is 10 and volume 2 when diameter is 11. Then after that we want the difference between volume 2 and volume 3 when diameter is increased by 1 and becomes 12. Okay, so how we do this? I'm going to write down diameter 1 is equal to 10, and then R1 is equal to diameter 1 divided by 2, correct? As I mentioned here, R is equal to d/2, right? And then now volume 1 is equal to the formula we have here. And then if we are going to use math, pi, remember we have to import math, right? And multiply r R1 actually. Why? Because the first R radius is R1, right? Power 3 is double star 3, and this will be the V1. So print V1. And what else now? D2 is equal to D1 plus 1, because they say increase by 1, right? And R2 is equal to D2 divided by 2. And then again we have volume, but this time volume is becoming the second volume, and R, which is radius, is increased, right? Because diameter increased. And then now I'm going to print the volume 2 here, and let's see what we have so far. So volume 1 is, so let me make it more kind of understandable. So volume 1 is equal to, and then volume 2 is equal to this. Okay, so what do we need? We need to do the same thing for the volume 3, and here volume diameter 2 is increasing, and then we are using diameter 3, and then we are using radius 3, and then we are printing out volume 3, volume 3. And this is volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, and as you see, the volume is increasing when diameter is increasing by 1. And what do we need here? We do need the difference between volume 2 and 1. Whenever we have difference between volume 2 and 1, whenever we find a volume 2, so that will be volume 1, volume 2 minus volume 1. Let's round this to because the question asks us to round it to 0 decimal. And then for the last one also, we are going to print the difference between the volume 3 and 2. And now you know this will be 3 minus 2, and we are rounding. Okay, so let's see what we have now. So we have the difference between the first and the second volume, and then difference between the third and the second volume here. Okay, so let me bring all of this to a cell that can be a raw cell here, because I'm going to write down in PowerPoint for chapter 2, class assignment 5, and the page number. Okay, so this is the still we are in chapter 2, some arithmetic operation, and now we are going to talk about more about strings actually, but this time we are going to use different method. Let me mention here that going back to strings and using some methods. Okay, so let's say I have a variable hello world. Now what I want to do, I want to use a function actually a method that is built in, and find some characters. For example, I want to find these two last character. I want to see if we have these characters in the in this variable and where this is located. So when I print this, so I use find to find the index of a certain character in a string, right? And then 9 says, okay, counting from here, this is index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, spaces 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So starting with index 9, we are going to find LD, right? And then let's say we want to find something like a space, right? So starting from index 0. Okay, so what will be the result? 5. So this is index 0, 1, 2, then 3, then 4, and then a space is 5. Okay, so let's say we are going to find the character which is not among the character we have in this string. So the result is going to show -1, right? Now, what about printing a character which is already here but in lowercase? So again, the result is going to show -1, means there is no valid index. So no valid index. This one, sensitive to the lower or uppercase. Okay, so that was find, and now I'm going to talk about another method. So let's have this here. Another method is they print x dot starts with, and let's see if this sentence start with hello, and then another one we want to see if it ends with world. Okay, so this one says true because we were correct, but this one has a capital W because of uppercase W. It shows that this string doesn't end with this letter. Okay, so what about, let's see what it says if I just have, for example, D and the symbol. Okay, so this is true, right? So start with and end with shows if your sentence or string starts with a certain character or ends with a certain character. Okay, so the next topic, actually not yet the next topic. We want to talk about replace. we want to replace a character with another character. Let's see what happens. So instead of L, now in X we have Z, right? So replace will replace the first one that we write down. It finds the first letter and then replace it with the second character. Now let's see if X has changed already. Print X. So X is still the same thing, right? In order for us to change it in place, we have to write down X equal replace. I'm going to put this in the second cell and write down, in order to change the string in place, we must update the variable. So in this way, if I write down X equal this one, X replace, now if I print X, we are going to see X is changed, right? Otherwise, X will not change. So now we learned that Python's string, calls such as replace, actually return a new string, and it doesn't modify the original string, right? That the call was made on. So why is this is happening? Because Python strings are immutable. So for this reason, when we are using replace, it will return back a new string rather than modifying the previous string. Okay, so now we want to talk about splitting, which is a kind of very useful when parsing data that has been read in a form of text file. The call on a split returns a list of a string that is split by any white space, tab, or new lines. Okay, so now let's say we have X equal 1, 2, 3, 4 high, and let's say tab again 1, 2, 5, and then R, some random string, right? And then I'm going to print X first, so you will see how this is printing the X, because this is going to be a tab between this, and this is going to be a, actually let me write down, now you will see what tab means exactly. And then this is going to print a new line, and /R is a carriage return, is a kind of simple escape character, you know. As you see, it's going to return it this way, right? And now I'm going to use a split now. Let's print X split, and then remember there's a parenthesis here, and see what happens now. So as you see, it's going to look at space and tab new line, and this escape, and then separate each of these for you. So imagine you had different names here. This method helps you to separate those names and have a kind of array of names. So this is a kind of function of a split. So what if after that again I print out x? So x is not going to be modified. It's going to be itself. So it doesn't modify x. So what else? Let's see something else. So if I have again x here, and I'm going to use x split, and then I'm going to say, okay, split it when we have like h. See what happens. So it's going to split it as soon as it sees the first h here, and it's not going to affect on the space or tab or /n/r. So this is splitting the string right at the point we request. Correct? Okay, so this is the split. And then there are also kind of a good useful operation is to split, which is multi-line input a string into a kind of list of a string that represent the individual lines. So how we do that? We are going to have, for example, our data is equal to, I think I talked about the use of 3 quotations, single quotation on each side. So this is going to create a kind of text for us. 3, 4, 5, 6, and then A, B, and let's say this is our data, and see how our data is going to be printed out in this way. Look what happens. As soon as I have moved to another line, we see from here to here, we see a /n, and then here after B also, as soon as I move to a new line, right? So this will make a new line for us. And now I want to, let's print this. Now I want to show you the other use of split, and then I'm going to print data.split. Let's see what we have. Oh, actually I forgot the parentheses like this, right? And then this one also, this split will also split the whole text file that we have in this form. It splits it to the way we see here. Okay, so split lines also is useful. So after this, let's look what a split lines does to this string. So, oh, what I didn't attach split lines to my data. Okay, now, so see what happens now. It will break it as soon as we have the first line, and it doesn't break it at this point that we are going to have nothing after this line, right? So this is the how the split line works. And then we can use join to join multiple strings together, and which is kind of called on separator string, with a list of strings to be joined passed as an argument. So let's see what happens when we are using joint. So let's say X is hello, and then Y is world, and then I'm going to create a new character under score dot join. Then now I'm going to join X, Y, X, for example. Oh, actually I should put all of them in bracket like an array, right? And then what I'm going to do, printing Z to see what happens. See what happens? It's going to join hello with world and again hello, right? And then join them with this one. If I had a space, let's see what happens. It would have a space, right? Okay, so this will join the string variables with the character we specify. For example, this one, right? Example, this one. Okay, so this was joined, and then let's see what else we have. Okay, so the other one useful string operation is the stripping white space and new lines, stripping actually white space and new lines from the left to the right hand side or both. So what that means, if I have X equal to, let's say, space 1 3 5 7 9 7 9 5, this is my string, and then let's print X to see what we have. We have a space, right? And then now I'm going to print, let's see what I'm doing here. Print, oops, single quotation, and then plus X plus the same thing on this side. Okay, see what this will do. This is going to create a double quote on each side before a space, right? Creates double quotes around the string. And then another thing, now I'm going to print the same thing, but I'm going to use strip, and then don't forget parentheses. This one has parentheses, and then now you see, so this will clean up all the spaces. And then I will do this, but this one is going to be L strip. So what's your guess what this will do? This is going to clean up all the spaces on the left side. And then what is the right side? When I use R instead of L. So this is going to clean up all on the right side. Okay, so this was the string formatting so far, and this is very common to use this kind of methods to format the strings we have. Okay, so next time we will go back to maybe more formatting to see how we can kind of create fancy and very neat writing output actually in Python. We'll see you later. Take care.